No, I mean, architecture is political. We gotta add that stuff.
Indeed.
We're tearing down communities to build multifamily, and you have to understand we are creating displacement. You're displacing Black and brown folks, and they don't come back.
Half of this podcast would be dedicated to the history of Tyler House, my journey and my discoveries, and hey, I'm going to solve this housing problem.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Melissa Daniels. This is the Architecturalist Political Podcast where Black and brown folks talk about architecture. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and be part of my storytelling. I've known Garfield for almost 10 years, over 10 years. It's been a while. And like I mentioned in this episode, we met at the AIA convention when it was in New Orleans. And I think that was in the mid-2010s, maybe 2013? I can't remember. Anyway, it was that long ago. And ever since then, I've only ran into Garfield at conventions, either the NOMA convention or the AIA convention. It's just one of those familiar faces that you see all the time. It's at least 24 other folks that I see on the architecture conference trail every year. Like I mentioned in the episode, I also follow him on Instagram, and I don't know about Facebook. I don't think Facebook. It's just one of those acquaintances that has good energy, good vibe, a good person, good peeps to hang around with. And it's funny too, because I never thought about asking him to be on a podcast, but someone did the asking for him. Shout out to that person. And I was like, yeah, I know Garfield. This will be easy peasy conversation that we'll have. We got into who he is as a person and his architecture journey, as well as all the many things that he does for this industry. So if you know Garfield only through conferences like me, or follow him in social media or LinkedIn or whatever, and just keep abreast of what's going on in his life, if you haven't, you should do it. I think that's all I have to say. So here you go. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. And I am a veteran.
Yes, you are. You are.
I just retired from the Air Force. In fact, ironically, I just got my retirement certificate this afternoon.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. 28 years as of 1 June. It seems like it flew by in that sense.
What made you join?
That's a sidebar on of its own, but I did join after Howard, ROTC, more traditional sense. They gave me a full scholarship. They gave me an HBCU scholarship to architecture school. And I had started at the University of Virginia for a number of years, and I'll talk about this later in our talk, but I didn't find architecture until my third year in college. So like most Black and brown folks, probably shouldn't have been there because I didn't have the money. We like to say we were on a Pell and a Pell Grant back in the day. So I had to leave UVA and went to Howard on an HBCU scholarship. They paid for the Air Force, ROTC paid for 4.5 years of my architecture school. Didn't want to be in the military, but I was like, hey, y'all going to take care of it. Let me give you a little bit of time. And 28 years later, here I am.
I know you, but the audience doesn't know you. So can you tell them who you are?
I am an immigrant from Jamaica. I am a proud father of a freshman at Northeastern University in Boston. Am a practicing architect, a license in state of Virginia and state of Georgia. I am a Christian, a man of faith. I believe God puts us here for a reason, and you just have to walk in the path that he lays. I'm an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, primarily in the profession. As we know, architecture, engineering, construction are still one of those professions that is heavily underrepresented by Black and brown folks. And I'm loving life, grew up in New York, like I said, born in Jamaica, came over when I was young, grew up in New York City, love of music, love of hip hop, grew up in Queens, New York, home of Tribe Called Quest and LL Cool J, Run DMC. Now I'm probably stating my age, but But it's all good. It's all good. So ended up, like I said, in DC at the Howard University, the Mecca. Had a wonderful time there, and I always had a passion. I didn't know it at the time in high school, going to college. But always had a passion for design and creativity growing up. So I ended up in architecture school at Howard, and the rest is history. But even in the military, I worked on base facilities. I worked on master planning for new developments on different facilities and bases around the world. Traveled around the world doing that type of thing, and ultimately ended up joining the reserves and joining private practice. Thankfully, got my license in Virginia, on to Georgia, and been in Atlanta for over 20 years.
It's a lot.
Yeah, life's kind of a marathon. You kind of have to just go with it.
And you, sir, have ran a marathon.
Yes, almost.
Oh, you didn't do it? Look, I seen you run all the time.
I do, and that's I'm a runner. Yeah, once you get to you kind of have to do certain things to keep going. So I am a member of Black Men Run, an organization that is about encouraging African American men to lead a healthy lifestyle, get up off that couch and be active. Been around for 10 years. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary here in the ATL just a few weeks ago, and been involved with that. Running 5Ks, 10Ks, almost a 10 mile. I mean, I've done 10 miles, but almost a half marathon. But been doing that for 7 years.
Yeah, because I follow you on Instagram, and in between your life, right? We met at a AIA convention.
Yes.
Do you remember what city?
Oh, was that Chicago?
New Orleans.
Or New York? The NO?
Yes. That was I know, right?
Wow, that was a wild conference. Oh man, are you serious? Well, I remember that very well.
Yeah, that was good times. Good times.
I was a South Region Vice President for NOMA. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a good time.
You know what's amazing is that just being Black in architecture and how we have a calling. For me, I do way too many things. And I noticed that a lot of us also do a lot of too many things. And you, sir, have done a lot. And I want to just do a deep dive into that. I know what drives me. I just want to check. What drives you into not just regular schmegular practice architecture and go home, but you go beyond that? What drives you?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I know it's going to sound a little hokey, but two things. One, it also sounds stereotypical, but Jamaicans always, I'm an immigrant from Jamaica, always have 100 jobs.
Lord.
So, I got to hold
10
up
jobs. You have 10 jobs, man.
I got, yeah, man, namos. But I got to hold up that banner in that sense. But it's funny, people make a joke of that, and it's actually rooted in some truth, in the sense that, in my opinion, and I've had various conversations with folks here in the States over the years, but in my opinion, well, folks from the West Indies, particularly from Jamaica, we are willing to do whatever it takes to get ahead, And then I guess with that said, I've been blessed with vision and the ethics of hard work, or the willingness to put the work in, because coming from an island like that, and you don't have much, and you kind of have to hustle. The government's not going to take care of you, and you have to do whatever it takes. I mean, it's the same thing for a lot of our Latin American brothers and sisters, where they're just, an African brothers and sisters, where you're coming from an environment that's not supporting you, and certainly not supporting as well as they do here in the U.S. And that's why we're here. So I'm not going to discredit that. If you want to be somebody, and if you want to make a difference in this world, take care of your family, obviously, that's the baseline. But if you want to go a little bit beyond that, then you have to do whatever it takes, and realize that you may be doing new jobs that you don't want to do initially, and in hopes that you end up where you are. But For me, the whole key part is just making the world a better place. Somehow I have this inherent passion I mentioned before that I'm a Christian, and I feel that God has given us speech, a talent on this earth to live to the fullest in that sense, and see how we can make the world a better place. I feel that mine is design, creativity, looking at environments, and helping people. And I've been doing that my entire life in that sense. Certainly, finding architecture, as you mentioned, black and brown, I just see such a deficit. I love the profession. I love what we do. I love the fact that we're empowered as professionals to improve our environments and through design and creativity and some of the things that we do outside of that. But I hate the devaluation of what we do through other professions. And I thoroughly detest underserved communities not receiving the benefit of good design, the benefit of a healthy community, the benefit of not having food deserts, not having walkable communities, not having visually aesthetic and empowering images that reflect their culture. I hate that. I detest that because I feel that as black and brown people, especially as black and brown professionals, we're able to affect that because we have the talents to do that. And for me, I just have always, and I partially blame Howard for that. Going to an HBCU, I have the benefit of a PWI and an HBCU. We were talking earlier. I started at the University of Virginia and went there right after high school. I was 16 when I went to high school. When I went to college in that sense. So I was young, impressionable, and a bit naive in the world and expected in New York, I had a pretty good support system and expected that when I went to UVA, and it wasn't the case. It's gotten a little better now, but back then, you were kind of on your own. And then when I went to Howard, it was just a different world. Our HBCUs are so critical in empowering our young people, our young African Americans, to kind of live in their purpose in that sense. And I credit all of the HBCUs, small and large, in just being that person to push our young folks forward into leadership positions. Coming out of Howard, we felt like there was nothing we couldn't do if we just put our mind to it. So I kind of blamed them because I felt that, if I saw something that needed to be done, I just tried to do it. So that's really what drives me. I feel as an architect, I can make things better, particularly for our underserved communities and for the profession. And I can't see myself just sitting around 9 to 5 and come home and watch TV. Who does that?
At what point growing up, I guess, that you noticed there was a difference? Were you like 5 years old, back home? When you were living in Queens? Were you in DC? At what point did you notice that there was a haves and have-nots?
Oh, have not. I came over from Jamaica when I was 6. So there's a lot of have not on my side, in that sense. We were very, very aware of that coming over here. I'm not one of those folks that's going to say that I grew up, impoverished, and I grew up in a situation where, I didn't eat for a period of time and things like that. I was blessed. My mother was a registered nurse. She actually left Jamaica and went to England to finish her nursing school and came back and got an opportunity in Manhattan, in New York. And once she did that, she was able to bring the rest of us over. My father was an accountant, and they were both college trained in Jamaica and in Europe. So we were blessed in that sense. But the one thing that I'm proud to say is they were hard on us. They really ensured that we did the things that we needed to do, that we didn't stray from school, we didn't hang out with the wrong crowd. And now back then it was brutal. West Indian families are notorious for being, and one of those shoe throwing mothers that you disrespected her, you're going to get a 6-inch heel at you.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Or a hanger or something.
An extension cord, phone cord. Them phone cords hurt, boy.
Yeah, no doubt. Father go out on the driveway and get a switch. Me and my brother getting done that night. But all of that really taught us a level of respect for those who come ahead of us, but discipline, So the have and have nots with us was more so, are you disciplined? are you willing to do what it takes to get ahead? And my father was, and my mother was so dedicated to taking care of us. They worked multiple jobs. It wasn't enough just to go to the hospital or to go to the office. And we saw them doing what they needed to do. So with that, it wasn't a question for us. I have two brothers I grew up with. One came out of Morgan State University, HBCU, with a degree in biology. Another one actually was at Stony Brook in New York and went on to the military as well. And he's a retired colonel from the Army. He's gone on to do amazing things. I have a sister also working for the federal government now. So it wasn't a question for us. I'm not saying that college is the only way to go, but college was the way out for us. And it wasn't a question that we were going to do whatever it takes to be successful.
So one thing I do know, like, and we talked about you having 10 jobs, entrepreneurship. And that's something that I didn't realize in architecture. I don't know why I didn't think about it until 5 years ago when I was like, I can't find a firm that I like. Most people, screw it, I'm going to start my own thing.
Right.
And you started your own thing or things. Was that easy breezy for you? Like, hey, I'm just going to do this thing and it's going to get done. How was that for you?
Scary.
I bet it was.
Terrifying. And I did it during, like in the midst of COVID. I started my own practice, Symphony Design Collaborative, a design firm, back in 2015, actually, after I got my master's of my MBA in sustainable green development. So I was empowered I was really excited coming out of there to actually do more writing than design, do more planning. I was already very active. This was 2012. Very active in the communities here in Atlanta, doing community engagement and working with organizations like the Atlanta Region Commission, our master planning organization for the metro, working for Sweet Auburn Works, a Main Street organization in Sweet Auburn here in Atlanta, and a number of other organizations. So I wanted an entity where I can kind of channel that energy for community involvement, and it kind of just transitioned more into a design firm than anything else. So its mission was very much rooted in mission-driven work and working with nonprofits and neighborhoods and things like that. And we did a lot of great work. But before that, I did it as kind of, this is my passion, maybe after I finish working, I will kind of do this as, I still have some regular income in, so I have some fun. So it was brutal. It was scary. I was working for the city at the time, city of Atlanta, Mayor Bottoms, Lance Bottoms. Prior to that, Mayor Reed's administration, and things kind of ran its course politically. And it was during a time when COVID, and I had done a lot of deep reflection as to, I was talking earlier about God's gifts and whether I felt I was fulfilling my mission here, my passion for community involvement and architecture and design. So I said, hey, I had a big project at the time, easy breezy. I had a big project at the time on Auburn Avenue. It's under construction now, a mixed use development called the Front Porch, which was an amazing experience, partnering with another minority Black firm, Cole Hill, working with two other amazing designers and a great team. And it was a big project for us. So I was like, hey, yeah, I can do this. This is awesome. I can be my own guy. That kind of ran its course. And then I was kind of hit with reality. It's like, oh, I need more work. So entrepreneurship, it's all about stepping out on faith. Every entrepreneur that I read about and everyone that I've known who's been relatively successful, they had a period where it's just like, I saw a quote from Martin Luther King, and I'm not going to quote it, was probably not accurately, but it said faith is taking the first step without knowing the whole staircase. And that's what it's like, because you're stepping out on faith. I mean, oftentimes you don't have the resources to make it, and you are really trusting that your vision and what you're planning is going to come through. And for me, I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I didn't feel I was strong enough, but I was like, hey, you only have one shot at this, and you don't want to be at the end and say you didn't maximize your gifts, right? So We had a great run. I was working on projects everywhere from small nonprofits who were working with homeless people, teaching them to cook, things like that. I worked with quite a few organizations just trying to get their building permits all the way up to the Georgia Mountain Food Bank in Gainesville, Georgia, where we did a 10,000 square foot expansion of their operations and this, which enabled them to serve so many more people as a food bank in rural Georgia. So I had a great team. I still have one or two folks, but I had a great team. I had three or four mentees, I'm sorry, come through. I was at NOMA conference in Portland. One of my interns, Bianca, who graduated from KSU in building construction and architecture, she told me, hey, this was the most transformative time in her life and made her more confident to get out in the workforce working with us. So similar, experiences with other young people. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create an environment, a practice where it wasn't your traditional clock in, clock out, at your desks and doing details all day. I worked hard to expose my young people to all aspects of the profession, from being at the kickoff meeting, pre-design to schematic, all the way to construction administration. And I let a few of them kind of run with their own projects. Had to reel them back in. I was a little bit too liberal with that, but I learned. But I wanted to allow them to see all of the perfection and just help them realize, if this is what they wanted to do. And from that standpoint, I think I was very successful in doing that. So being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. One thing I'm going to tell the audience here is, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. It will expose what you're not good at quickly. What I mean by that is you need to have a good team around you to support you and to make sure that you have good processes in place. If it's not invoicing, it's marketing, social media, there's so much more than just doing the job. And if you're going to try to go it alone like I did, it's going to be brutal. But if you have a good team around you, you put some good processes in place, then you're going to go far.
And in that transition, Moody Nolan, I feel that it's the right fit for you as director of operations.
Yeah. Well, each office in Moody Nolan's a studio. Mm-hmm. It's a concept that we are now kind of developing in that sense. And it's a way to pivot from what I like to say, going from practicing nationally to being a national practice. So I am the director of the Atlanta studio.
How is that different or similar to owning your own firm?
For me, I knew that once I had a taste of being my own boss, I wasn't going to go to just any other opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of humble pie. No one goes into the business for themselves thinking they're not going to be doing this for the rest of their life. So it got to the point where I was like, yeah, I probably need to think about doing something else to supplement this. And it'd be like the main thing. And, so that was that. So I wanted to go to an organization or firm because I was very confident. I mean, I've been doing this long enough to know and kind of understand what's right or wrong and how to deal with clients and how to, get work in the door and the things that goes into being, delivering a successful project. So the only thing left for me was to be involved with a firm that shared my values, in that sense, my passion for serving communities and my passion for diversity, and would allow me the freedom to make the decisions that I feel are important. And Moody Nolan was at the top of the list for me because I've known Kurt and Jonathan for a while, mostly Jonathan, of course, our CEO, Jonathan Moody. And I knew of their firm, and I knew that the culture of inclusiveness and diversity that they were trying to build. I knew one of their partners was my college roommate. So he's been on me forever to consider Moody Nolan. I was doing a bunch of other things at the time. But once I took more of a look at them and the opportunity came available, I was like, okay, what are they really about? And their practice of responsive architecture to me really embodied what they're about because it's all about working with the community, listening to their needs, and leveraging our creativity and innovative thinking to come up with inclusive solution. And part of that is just leveraging everyone's distinct talents and backgrounds and allowing them to have their voice heard in that sense. And then just really the cross disciplinary approach to a design problem where you're really collaboratively working with not only your team, but your consultants, the willingness to partner with other firms, no matter how large Moody Nolan is, to put the right team together to be responsive to the client. Those type of things really resonated with me. And with me leading the Atlanta studio, it was like I was able to now use what I learned in my practice and with the resources, the new resources of Moody Nolan, really get a chance to not only impact my local community, but the communities around the country where our offices are. And one of the things we're looking at now is for example, a similar project to the Bowen Homes Choice Neighborhood Development here in Atlanta, which is this huge, a fairly large, significant development of the old Bowen Homes, redevelopment of the old Bowen Homes site down in Houston. And we're getting ready to meet with the developer there to continue some great work that our Houston office has been doing down there on that site. And it's a very similar situation to what we're doing here in Atlanta. So I feel like the firm, even though we've blossomed, I mean, we've doubled in the last 2 years since winning Firm of the Year in 2021 and having 12 offices around the country with folks, well, mostly up and down the East Coast. Folks don't realize, they still think that we're Moody Nolan's in Columbus only. I mean, we have officers from Boston down to Dallas, Nashville, New York, I mean, Atlanta, of course. So it's a good time to really be part of this organization because I think that we're still growing. I feel that we're coming into our own as a practice, a national practice that can go toe to toe with any of the other large firms. And our culture is still very much a Midwestern family type environment where when we get together, we have a good time and we share a passion for doing design the right way. So that's what I've seen so far. And that's the organization I wanted to be a part of and continue to, as I said, use God's gifts to make the world a better place.
Mentorship. Who's your mentor, past, present? And how did they shape how you mentor others?
Wow. I got a couple. I have a number of them, actually. I guess currently is Oscar Harris, architect here in Atlanta. FAIA has done a host of various municipal, public, and private jobs. Over 35 years in business. He's retired now. He started Spike Studio, which we'll talk about at one point, I'm sure. The nonprofit that I work with him to start and get going, and we've been going for 20 years. He continues to mentor me and shape me from a business standpoint, particularly because he's just a doggish businessman and just really, really focused on not only carving out a piece of the pie for African American businesses, but also just promoting good design and promoting that we can go to toe to toe from a design standpoint with anybody out there. So he continues to inspire me. Cheryl McAfee, FAIA is another one. Cheryl McAfee and their father, Charles McAfee, first mother and two daughters family, all to be FAIA in the institute, and a firm of close to 40 years, over 40 years. They came up during a time of civil rights. Their father was very active with the civil rights movement in Oklahoma. And again, really strong entrepreneur, incredibly inspiring. And she's my surrogate mother. She really takes care of me. At Howard, I would say Ronnie McGee, FAIA. he really impacted me coming up in so many ways. Uh, I used to intern with him coming through Howard, and then my first job coming out of Howard for the military, no doubt. My first real job was working for him on Bowling Air Force Base, where he was the design architect. He was the base architect, and he was so tough on me. I was just telling his wife at the NOMA conference in Portland, he couldn't make it, that Ryan was so tough on me, and he was the first to tell me, because I was, every NOMA conference you go to, they always ask me, are you licensed? Are you licensed? Are you licensed? So I was like, yeah, I get licensed. I'm just gonna take over the world, man. I'm just gonna have the best job. I mean, y'all ain't gonna tell me nothing. And he was the first man to tell me, he said, boy, getting licensed is just the beginning. I mean, you still don't know nothing, It's like coming out of law school and passing the bar, right? You haven't done anything in the profession yet. And so I'm like, what you mean, man? What you talking me license? Like, boy, architecture is a practice. It is a lifelong practice, and you never know it all. And after I got over my disappointment, after I got licensed, I kind of realized, I still didn't know shit. But anyway, you can strike that from the record. So, so yeah, he really challenged me as a designer, as an architect, gave me a lot of responsibility on the Air Force Base, and to this day, he's doing amazing things with Howard University, their redevelopment around campus. I really respect him and how he's shaped me as a professional. So those are the individuals that really have impacted me. They all represent aspects of my life that I want to embody, from civil rights activism part of me all the way up to entrepreneurship and just pushing young people to see this, to really value what we do as architects and really take it seriously and realize they are empowered to make a difference in the environments around them. So that's why I love this profession.
And the young folks, right? And you mentioned that was my feeder into Spike Studio.
There we go.
So we want to tell the audience what it is. And my reason for my feeder, right, is because these are high school students that you mentor.
Yeah, they are. And the reason why we focus on high school students, and we do touch and do programs with middle school, I mean, in the profession, we long realized that as creatives, as designers, that to get the best and the brightest, we have to go at them early, right? We have to, architecture, as you know, is not for the faint of heart. The college training, schooling, the internship, the practice itself, it's pretty rigorous. It's pretty unforgiving in times. So you really have to be passionate about what we do to see it through. So, we need to go back and find those kids who are just naturally curious about their environments and are realizing that they have the talent to do what we do. So by then, most students kind of get a feel for what they like and know, have an idea what they want to do, but they just need to be guided. So as I mentioned, Oscar Harris, back in 2004, I was on the board of Carnegie Mellon Studio for Creative Inquiry, and was working with a program in Pittsburgh, in the underserved communities there in Pittsburgh, called SLAP. And they were reaching out to high school students there in Pittsburgh, Black and brown communities, and connecting them back to Carnegie Mellon University. He thought, hey, can that concept work down here in Atlanta? And Oscar was already doing his own kind of mentorship with his Turner Associates, which was a fairly significantly decent-sized firm here, doing tons of great work up and down the region. So he was like, hey, is this a way to do that here in Atlanta? So I actually met Oscar at the airport. I was working with Leo A. Daly on the international terminal there for Hartsville and the city of Atlanta, and met him. He was the big man on campus at the airport, of course. And he was like, hey, do you have a passion for working with young people? I said, yeah, man, that's my thing. And little did I know I was being enlisted into this 20-year effort, but it's been a great ride in that sense. So we started at bringing the concept to Benjamin E. Mays High School, a STEM high school here in Atlanta, well known over the years for their math and science academies and things of that nature. So we started there the first number of years. We were teaching an after school program, just basically bringing professionals into the high school with the goal of just exposing the young people to what we do. We would come in and do design problems and teach them our skill sets, model making, sketching, drawing, basically supplementing what they were already learning with any type of CAD or computer design. We would take them to Georgia Tech's campus, show them the studio. I mean, really trying to show them a side of college that they may not have imagined for themselves in terms of studio and architecture, engineering, things like that. We'll bring people in, bring professionals in to support, to talk to them. And we found quite a bit of success. We found a number of students who just naturally had been drawing and doing design, on the fringes of design, and they just really got passionate about it. So we continued to do that. And this was 2004, 2009. We had formed a nonprofit, an official nonprofit, the Atlanta Center for Creative Inquiry. And by 2010, we were teaching not only at Benjamin Mays, but we were teaching at least in over 6 high schools around the metro, and everything from DeKalb County, Lithonia High School, to Coretta Scott King Women's Academy, Best Academy, to Washington. I mean, we were all over the place. And in 15, we said, okay, we need to consolidate. And Georgia Tech has always been, at the time, was a strong supporter of us. So we started teaching an academy in the summer during 2015. Prior to that, we had started a relationship with Harvard, a Harvard Fellows Program. And I think we sent our first student to Harvard in 2010. Yeah, 2010. I gained that relationship through NOMA at one of the conferences. Harvard GSD, Graduate School of Design rep, will come and exhibit like any other school. And we were like, hey, we have this program in Atlanta. Are you open to high school students coming to your summer program? And we were able to work out a deal. And to date, we've sent over 15 students to their summer program there in Cambridge. And it's just been a transformative experience. We've sent high school students up there. We've sent undergraduate students, primarily first and second year. We try to get them early. And we find that any bit to encourage, to find that spark, to get, to continue to fan that flame of passion. Because like I said, it's a tough profession and it's not for the faint of heart. So we can try to find any opportunity to do that. And that's been awesome. We're working on MOU with them now as well. And so, we continue to do that, the summer program. And we started that at Georgia Tech. And then we also went to, we started a similar building construction summer program at Southern Polytechnic State Institute, which is now under Kennesaw State. We started that in 17, and we continued to teach that program at Georgia Tech. Kennesaw kind of waned off a little bit. Our latest accomplishment is this year we signed a 3-year memorandum of agreement to teach at Tech for the next 3 years. This year we had academy of close to 35 students. They're at Tech. Over 20 years that we've been doing this, we've taught over 600 students, and some of them have gone on to do amazing things. One of them, Paul Sparks, went on to get a degree in astrophysicists or something like that. He works for the Corps.
Wow.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He works for the Corps of Engineers. So from an engineering standpoint, he was at Vanderbilt for a while. It was just crazy. But yeah, one of your earlier things, I think, what drives me and what keeps me going is when I go to a NOMA conference, or I'm at an event here locally, or even at a Hawks game, and one of our earlier students from early 2000s who are now about to graduate from college in the School of Architecture, or any program really, or has got their own business, or is now an intern at a local firm or working for an engineering firm or a contractor, and they come up to me and go like, "I remember you." They tap me on the shoulder when I was at a Hawks game. Pretty much had floor seats. First time I was in there enjoying the game, just amazed that I had floor seats. And one of my students comes up to me, Austin, taps me on the shoulder and be like, "You're Garfield, from ACCI." And, I was like, "Oh, crap." Amazed that he's grown up, so much. They grow so fast. And he's introducing me to his grandfather and says, "Hey, this guy really impacted me in high school." And those are the things that really gets me excited to continue to do the work. And not only, and I would offer, not only does it drive me to continue mentoring and working with young people, but it drives me as a practitioner. It shows me that this profession can still excite young people. And we're starting to get more of a pipeline. We're not even close to being where we need to be in that sense, but we're starting to get a decent pipeline of just energized young people coming into this profession. And we promote architecture, engineering, construction, and they're coming with fresh ideas. They're coming with a level of excitement that makes us step up our game. In that sense. So that's what I get out of mentorship. And if I'm not having interns in my own practice or working through ACCI now Spike Studio, or just working with the young professionals in my office, in my studio, that whole cross section of young professionals is what inspires me.
Yeah, it's amazing when they tap you on the shoulder in a basketball game. Floor seats, sir. Who did you know?
My cousin works for PNC Bank. So thank you, PNC. I love you. I will continue to bless your establishment. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's amazing how you don't know who you affect until they come to you and say, "Hey, you changed my life." Like it's it's amazing. And
that's faith.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything else coming up? Are you gonna get your F? Are you applying for that?
You'll be the first to know. Keeping that on the wraps. I'm keeping that on the wraps.
Okay.
Fellowship is an aspiration.
All right. Because your mentor, all of your mentors have that F. So
yeah. I've noticed. Now my work, I'm excited to be working with AIA a little closer. I think I'll go down this rabbit hole for a little bit. I think we're at a very transformational point in the AIA, in the profession. I'm glad to see that the energy from the social justice movement resulting from a very unfortunate series of events of police violence on our people. I think the good that's come out of that is a awakening within the professions, particularly architecture, and to have a situation where last year we hired our first African American woman as the executive director, CEO of the American Institute of Architects, and to have this year a woman in the grand staff as the president, and has the first African American millennial president coming in as the 100th president, Miss Kimberly Dowdell, coming in next year. The person I worked with as her national treasurer, NOMA, a few years back, and to have Emily Lee coming after her, to have the first opportunity for three amazing women of amazing vision, two of which are of color, lead the AIA is unprecedented. And as a member of the Strategic Council, the Georgia State Rep, my first year of 3-year term, I get a chance to see firsthand, up close and personal, some of the things that they're trying to do. And as a counselor, I get a chance to have input in the vision of where we go as an organization, as the largest membership organization in what we do. We have a chance to make a difference. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride. And I'm still excited about the profession. I'm excited about my journey to this point. Getting something like fellowship would be a good cap to that, but the work's not done in that sense. We still have a lot to do, a lot to ensure that our profession architecture, engineering, and construction are inclusive and represents the greatest society, and we all have seats at the table. So what you're doing is amazing. Highlighting individuals, Black and brown folks in our profession who were pushing the envelope, kind of raising questions and helping young people and making folks stand up and listen to things that may not be as comfortable to listen to. You talked about being an entrepreneur and finding your passion and your path, and I think this is a great way to do it. So I commend you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, Garfield. That's a great way to end it's a great way to end the segment of me. Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Garfield. It's been a pleasure. And the legacy that you lead is just impeccable, and glad to know you.
Hey.
Glad to call you a friend.
And the great thing about it, we are just getting started.
I know.
That's what's up.
I know. Thanks for tuning in to Architecture's Political Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it informative or at least entertaining. If you like what you heard, please share with others. You can also connect with Arcus Poly on social media, currently on Instagram as well as Facebook and Twitter. For more information, visit us on our website. It's arcuspoly.online, ARCHIPOLLY.online. I also want to thank our loyal supporters who have been with this podcast for at least 3 years. It means the world to me, and I'm totally grateful to have you part of this community. I will try to bring you the best content as possible, and I can't wait to share more amazing episodes with you. If this is your first time listening, or just like a particular episode, or all of them, you can support this podcast by going on glow.fm/ArcusPoly. Again, thank you for your support. It means the world to me, and thank you so much for listening.